How do you shop for a home that needs a little work? I'm sure you've heard horror stories where people have bought homes that needed a lot more work and money put into them than they expected. And sometimes it's even gotten so bad where they've had to cut their ties and resell their home for a loss. I don't ever want that to happen to you. So in this video, I made a checklist of things that I personally look for when purchasing a home with a remodel in mind. The first thing to ask yourself is whether or not you're prepared to take on a remodel. I'm sure you've heard horror stories where couples have gone into a custom home project or even a remodel project and they end in divorce before they can even move back into their home or move into their new home. Well, this is super true because the stress of a remodel or building a project is really high. This statement is so true that in 2017, Business Insider published a study that stated 10% of couples end in divorce during a remodel project. Remodeling is super stressful and it involves a lot of heavily weighted decisions. So again, before you start looking for that home and deciding that you actually want to buy something that's a project, make sure you ask yourself, are you prepared to undertake everything that comes along with a remodel? There's a lot of stress that's involved. Like I said earlier, remodeling can be very stressful, and the more extensive of a remodel project you're doing, the more added stress you're going to have. Minor remodel projects could be things as simple as changing countertops, refinishing cabinets, and purchasing new appliances, while more extensive projects could include moving walls, moving plumbing, moving gas lines, and adding electrical options to the house, as well as full bathroom and kitchen remodels. As you can see, a full remodel will entail many steps along the way. You'll have to hire a designer who will first sketch out all your plans for your general contractor, who will then take your stuff to an architect, and they'll draw out the plans that will have all the specs on it to provide to the county to pull any permits that you might need, and even for your plans that you need to submit to your HOA for approval. Each step of the process is a blast for someone like me who's totally experienced in remodeling and the build process. But for others, it can be very overwhelming for someone to have to make so many decisions in such a short period of time. The next thing you're going to want to do is ask yourself if you're going to be able to live somewhere else while your remodel is taking place, or if you have to live in the house while you're doing all the work. Living in your home during a remodel is definitely added stress on top of an already stressful situation. So I highly recommend, if at all possible, trying to find a way to live in a different place while you're doing your remodel, especially during more extensive projects. Time of completion also needs to be considered here, because when you are doing a remodel and you are living in the home, you can expect to add several weeks to months to your project because it just takes more time for your contractors to work around the people that are living in the home at the time. I personally have never moved out during any remodel projects, and I've had all 4 of my kids at home during most of them. The last remodel I did was on my current house that I live in now, and it was super easy. We started on the outside, so of course that didn't interrupt any of our living day to day, so it was really easy to do the outside. Once I moved inside and started on the kitchen, I changed all the countertops, refinished cabinets, replaced all of the appliances, and then moved on to remodel all 7 bathrooms in my home. Then we moved on and redid the staircase. We repainted the house, changed out all of the trim and door paint, added a climate-controlled wine cellar, and then finished off by doing all of the bedrooms in the house. I had 3 kids living at home during this remodel, and my living room literally became a MASH unit. Every night I'd lay down 3 air mattresses so they had somewhere to sleep, and every morning I raised them all back up so that we had somewhere to live, and we did this for 4 whole months. There were even some points during during the remodel that we weren't even allowed to go upstairs for weeks at a time. I'm fortunate enough to have extra space in my home that made the inconveniences a tiny bit easier, but it still is a big headache and creates a lot of stress when you have to live through the remodel process. If you've ever been through a construction site, you'll see the same thing happens during a remodel. It creates a lot of very fine dust particles. So if you're living in your house, you're going to want to clean daily after the construction stops, only for them to have to start all over again the next day, which does create added time to your day and again, a lot of added stress. So as you can see, if you can move out of your home, it will make your remodel process a lot easier. When you're living there, the contractors have to come in, set up, do their work, and provide extra time to tear down, only to start all over again the next day. And if you're not living in your property, they don't have to take that extra time. They can just start and stop and start and stop, which creates a lot more time for them to get the work done. Now that we know that a remodel project is right for you, we're ready to start house shopping. Here are some things that I look for when I start shopping for that perfect remodel project. Location is everything. Whether you're trying to find a home to resell right away or remodel and live in for a while, location is everything in all real estate transactions. You want to be sure that when the time does come to resell your home, that your house is in a desirable area. Otherwise, you're going to have a tougher time reselling your home and getting the value you want out of it. And another factor you want to keep in mind when you're flipping properties is how long most homes sit on the market, because that's going to cut into your profit as well. You're going to have to continue paying that mortgage and HOA and taxes and insurance as long as that home is sitting on the market. So keep that in mind when choosing your home as well. One of the most important things to consider when shopping for your perfect remodel project is making sure that you're getting the house for the right price. Shopping for a remodel project is very different than shopping for a home that would be a turnkey home. When you're shopping for a turnkey home, you have a lot more room to pay closer to market or at market, because you're going to be putting very little back into the home to bring it up to your living standards. But when you're shopping for your project, you're going to want to be sure that that is factored into the price of the home. These homes are generally a bit distressed, and sellers should know or have been educated by their agents that they're going to have to price their houses accordingly to the amount of work that needs to be done to bring that house up to the market standards. If you're new to my channel, I'm Lisa Lopez, and I'm a real estate consultant in the Las Vegas area. I specialize in luxury real estate, and I have a passion of helping busy families just like you achieve the American dream of home ownership through my personalized concierge approach to real estate. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos about Las Vegas and real estate. I like to first set a top budget, like an all-in number, and then I work backwards from there. For example, if a particular property has a comparative market value of $2 million and needs about $500,000 of work, then you're going to want to be sure that you purchase that home somewhere around the $1.5 million range. This will ensure that your new home will still be within market value once all of your renovations have taken place, and that you won't be above market, which you never want to do. I like to look at each house individually because no two houses are the same. Sometimes you might walk into a house thinking it needs very little work, but the more you look into it, you realize that it needs a lot more extensive work than originally planned. This actually happened to me pretty recently. I went for my initial viewing, and as I walked around and looked at the things that I thought needed to be done to bring the house up to the standards that I wanted it at, I thought it wasn't going to cost me very much. But as you guys know, I always talk about in my past videos how important the due diligence process is to go ahead and complete all those inspections. It's so important because when I was doing this process, I realized this house needed a lot more work than I originally planned and wrote my offer based on. During that transaction process, I originally wrote the offer for about $150,000 under list because I thought that was about all I needed to put into the house. But after doing more research, I realized I actually needed to put about $350,000 into that house, and the seller wasn't going to budge at all, and I wasn't willing to go above that because it would put me above market once I was done with all of my renovations. So while we're in the step of the due diligence process, I like to have my GC and my designer come walk the property with me to make sure that any of the changes I want to do can actually be done. Sometimes what I want to do in a house isn't an option, and this just becomes a complete deal breaker for me. And other times, if you're able to spend the hours during the inspection in the property, you see things that you didn't see before. Remember, while you're shopping for a house that's going to be a remodel project, you're going to be coming across many properties that are distressed. So your job right now is to be a problem solver. You're going to go into each house and look at each problem and ask yourself, is this fixable? Can I change this to make it better? This is what's going to allow you to get the best deal, because you're going to be able to see things that other buyers don't see. Sometimes during this inspection process, through the due diligence period, will bring about things that make you realize that the house just needs way more work than you're willing to put in or money that you have available to put into the house. This actually happened to me on the house that I discussed earlier, where I went in and I looked at the house, and when I put my offer in, I offered about $150,000 under the list value because it was going to take me about $150,000 to bring that house up to my standards. During the inspection process, the more time I spent in there and bringing my GC and my designer along, we realized the house actually needed about $350,000 worth of work. And at that time, the seller wasn't willing to budge, and I wasn't willing to pay that extra money because it was going to bring the house above market value. And I never recommend doing that. So needless to say, I did end up canceling contract on that purchase, and I was able to get back all of my earnest money because I did it through the due diligence period. That's why in all my videos, I constantly stress to you to take full advantage of the due diligence period that you're allowed. What do you think so far? Would you buy a house and remodel it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Some things to pay attention to while you're doing your evidentiary process are floor plans. The floor plan is so important. Sometimes there's little you can do to change a floor plan, but if it doesn't flow effortlessly, some things to ask yourself while problem solving is, can I fix this problem by moving walls or removing walls to make spaces more open? Without a good floor plan, you can actually harm your resale ability down the road. The condition of windows and doors is also another thing you're going to want to look into. I'm currently working on a project where all of the arched windows and arched doorways are going to have to be made more modern by being replaced with the more rectangular appearance. Do the cabinets need to be refinished, or in some cases they need to be replaced? So make sure that when you're looking at those cabinets, you're looking at them with a fine-tooth comb. There's a big price difference in refinishing cabinets and replacing them. You're going to want to look for anything structural that might need to be changed. Are there water spots on the ceilings? Are you going to have to move walls? Are you going to have to move plumbing fixtures, gas fixtures, or sometimes even toilets need to be shifted left or right? Roof integrity is another very important thing. The integrity of your roof can mean a lot, and repairs on roofs can be very expensive and extensive. Is there a rodent or pest infestation? I know this sounds crazy to some, but in Las Vegas, we have rodent issues, especially when you live on a golf course and in a community with lots of palm trees. Rats get into all kinds of holes in your home and can infest your attic very quickly. And I've seen some situations where an entire attic remediation can cost up to $20,000. So this is something you're going to want to look into when you're considering a remodel project. Another very expensive thing that a lot of people don't look into is the age age of the HVAC system. There's nothing worse than a buyer thinking they're getting a fully remodeled home only to find out that that flipper took some short corners and didn't replace the HVAC system at the time of the remodel. And if it's your own home, you're going to want to be sure your units are working just as efficiently as your house is beautiful inside. If you're trying to flip a house, there are some other things you're going to have to consider. You're going to have to really look at your profit margins after the renovations are complete. You're going to want to make back what you spent in renovations plus some profit if you're doing this for a business. If you're trying to flip your house, the scenario changes a bit. The reason for this is you're handling this as a business. So you're going to want to be sure that your profit margins allow you to make back what you put into the home and make some profit as well. When you plan to buy, remodel, and live in it for a while, it's a little different because you have time to actually make back some of those renovations in the equity that you will gain over the years of owning your home. Stay calm and roll with the punches. Once you're positive the house you have found is the right house for you to remodel, you're going to want to remember that remodeling is a marathon and not a sprint. The greater attention you give to details in your project, the greater return you will have. You inevitably will encounter some hiccups along the way. So remember, the more flexible you are, the more calm and enjoyable of an experience you will have during the process. Remember, you're a problem solver now. So as problems arise in the process, it's your job to figure out the best way and the best solution for that problem. For more real estate advice and to find out more about the home buying process, be sure to check out my playlist. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I drop a new video. See you on the next one.